We don't have to.
Yeah, we're gonna take it as one lump at the council. Oh, that's an individual. Unless somebody on council. does.
With the state.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Yeah,
She's up.
yeah. Get a chance at sometime this weekend.
So we could call meeting to order. And you wanna do a roll call?
Oh, dear. I didn't, I thought it was here. I don't think. Well. We do the roll call on.
Actually,
We should.
you should, yeah, you do roll call at
Every
every meeting,
Yeah.
but you.
Make sure you-
Yeah, but actually you have to call the meeting to order. And then she's gonna get you the sheet will follow.
Alright.
It may be. Maybe, but generally. You call.
Oh. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that.
How are you, sir?
Hello, everyone. We do the pledge of the committee.
It's
I don't want to send
draft.
Okay.
At this one, we don't want comments.
This is fine.
Yes. Go ahead. Hey, how's it going? Good.
How
we doing? How we doing, everyone? Should we go first? Yeah.
They were screwed up. Yeah, I'm trying to. It wasn't me.
The whole feng swing's off in here.
Yeah, I had
On a raise.
I went through and spot checked about 15, 16 of them.
Doug Smith. Hopefully our solicitor will be here.
You saving seats in our room, how the hell's that?
You got your own.
Majority of them.
Oh, not Doug Smith.
But that's a new one,
I like
is
I
that
think
something
they
new?
almost all bought it.
Well, there's not enough room around the table.
That's usually what, I mean, we assign, that's for our deputy solicitor, though, right?
Really be.
Yeah, he said that's for Doug.
Oh, no.
We'll get Doug a chair.
No, you can sit there, our solicitor probably.
Well, that's why I was
You
just
gotta
talking
get
to
up.
Terry.
Deputy solicitor, but we can, pull a chair up too. Sit next to Paul. Grand idea.
You know, I'll go back.
Just thought we put that reserve line there for you.
Karen, are you good? Okay. Yeah, so we'll call the meeting to order. Karen, when you're ready, if you want to do a roll call of the attendance.
Mr. Bale,
Here.
Mr. Drexel,
Here.
Mr. Horton,
Here,
Mrs. Showerman, Mr. Patel, Mr. Winarski,
Here.
Mr. Copeland.
Here. All right, well, I asked for a little bit of patience, but it's my second meeting ever on me. If you guys see anything out of line, feel free to give me a tap, but, I'll proceed to the first agenda item for discussion. We have the library fund budget supplemental appropriation of $70,000 for carryover unspent, county coordination aid funds for procurement of a new delivery van. Somebody from the library here to speak on behalf of that.
John Giuliano, Interim Director of the Library. This is state aid that we received, county coordination aid. Did not spend last year. We received a waiver from the state to spend that in 2024 for the purchase of a new delivery van.
Questions?
no, this money coming in, it's just a supplemental appropriation that we don't. Spend a lot of time on it, that's the sort of thing, absorbent amount of money, we want to know what this is doing with it. But we thank you for the work that you're doing, when they come with the supplemental appropriation issues, you money coming in.
Yeah.
So I don't have any questions with my colleagues.
Okay, number two, we have approving a waiver of bid requirements for the county purchasing code for the sole vendor contract between Erie County Department of Health and Regional Science Consortium. Yeah, Nicole?
Hi.
What's up there?
Nicole Bolash, I'm going to answer any questions that you might have about this.
Yeah, a lot.
Okay.
This is my first time seeing or hearing anything on it. What is it? Is that the vendor contract for, what's the contract consist of? What's the,
It's for beach sampling, secondary a week beach sampling of the waters, and it helps us to know which beaches are open, which ones are not. Unfortunately, I can tell you, unfortunately, this predates me. But it's the first time that we're bringing the waiver request. Wasn't aware that that wasn't happening. I apologize. We found out that it wasn't, so we're here to make it right. The Regional Science Consortium they've done this work for us for years. We can't afford to do it. We don't have the equipment, we don't have the staffing. They hire the interns, and essentially we're paying for some of their staffing and supplies only.
I'm always leery of waiving
Understood.
the requirements, so there might be someone equally competent, qualified, or interested. Since I'm of the mindset that a lot more needs to be asked, and I think leaving it at the first reading will give us that opportunity. Our colleagues or anything, any information that you have an old contract or anything else that you could provide to help us be more informed, that'd be great as well.
I can check and see what I have and send it to you after. I can do that tomorrow. Other than that, I don't have any additional information. Our environmental director is a part of several task forces and committees, of other, I guess, agencies that are not involved in this, but work in this area and in this realm, and is under the understanding that there really isn't anyone.
What's the bid? We don't know what's the price, what's the money. This really don't
It's,
tell us anything right here. It
Oh.
doesn't
It's
tell
not to exceed 96,000.
Yeah.
A year.
anything.
yeah, a copy of the sample agreement is a part of the packet, but I didn't have I didn't have one signed, and I thought that's what you were asking for.
Yeah, like, is it an increase from last year, or how much of an increase?
It's a little bit of an increase because we got additional funds to increase it from 5 days a week to 7 days a week to do more sampling.
Yeah, and just basic stuff, not the grill or anything, but basic who, what, where, when, how.
Okay,
Stuff like how much is the bid, what's the scope of work, what are they gonna do, what are we paying them for,
oh,
that type of stuff.
okay, that's in here. There's some information in here, but I'm happy to try to give you additional information if that's what you need.
Right. Well, we'll be able to call upon you or ask anybody will, but I think this year I'm of the mindset unless it's a dire emergency, since everything seems to be an emergency around here, not you all. I think that everything should go and run its due course and at least be a first and a second reading.
Absolutely, yeah. I wasn't asking for a second read. We're okay with going through the first reading process.
Right.
Yes.
And so I guess my whole point is, this is our first time seeing, hearing anything about it. We just want some basic information
Understood.
that may not be.
Got it. Okay, I can follow up and get you additional information.
So when I was asking questions about this, it was clear that this is a long-standing relationship, that they've been doing the water testing for the county for 10 years. But what was the nature of the contract before, or was it contract work that, or just were we issuing micro POs for when they tested, like were they invoicing per test, like what was the nature there?
No, it was contract work, because they can't hire the interns, without us having the contract in place. Again, not knowing, I don't have the year before's contract in here, but it's my understanding that it's the same scope of work, it's the same work, but it's always been contracted out to the Regional Science Consortium.
Okay, and so the RSC, what does, if anything, does it intersect with Neptune? Since they're testing and sampling, is there gonna be a duplication of effort here or what? I
No.
think,
To the best of my knowledge, no, but
I mean, it's a fair question, right?
it absolutely
Fair
is. I don't
question,
know much
right?
about
Fair
Neptune.
question, right?
I could address it if you like.
I just want to know if it's a fair question. And she, if you said no, she said she don't think so. I don't want to take up a lot of time unless you're going to talk about that contract specifically. If it's going to be another Neptune thing, then I just assume forego it.
This is strictly water testing, like when you get reports on the quality of beach water, that is what the Science Consortium reports on it. Isn't really related to Neptune at all.
What I understood is these test results that help them make the decision on beach closures.
I'm fully understanding that, in light of current events and Neptune having a laboratory or water testing or sand testing. I think it's a fair question to ask, and maybe it wasn't last year, but is it going forward this year? And if it is, it's in an MOU, it's in a memorandum of understanding or something to that effect. But you've been great in answering.
It's a service agreement is what the sample is in here. I'm happy to meet with environmental and try to get additional information. If there's anything specific that you want after you think about it, please let me know.
I did have one small issue,
Okay.
not to exceed contract, but there doesn't appear to be, like an itemization of cost per test, cost per day, cost per analyzation, or how do those services roll up? You know, do we get to June and we've reached our not to exceed value and now we're not testing the beach water for 2 months?
We have a budget that was not included here that I can also send.
If you have any collateral, you can send along. That'd be awesome.
Okay.
Doug, do you have anything else?
I don't.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you. Both of them, the following are yours, correct? Number 3, ARPA fund balance supplemental appropriation of $1 million to the Erie County Care Management for upgrades to the homeless project.
Yeah, and I have to speak to that, as this body's aware, we allocated $2 million to the homeless shelters that went unspent or didn't they didn't access. Certainly the need hasn't lessened any, in fact, it's grown. At the time when it was before, St. Patrick's Haven had caught on fire and they were closed for renovations, the 2 million. And the community health care on 8th Street had closed and the overflow shelter continued to be an issue. The money originally was intended for any upgrades, any maintenance, any facelifts, any equipment, any of those things that the home team who evidently didn't know might exist either, because they didn't access it. But in any event, it's my interest in doing this is that I think it's a perfect use of American Rescue Plan funds. I took the liberty of reaching out to several of the shelters this past week to see what some of the needs were. The Erie Communities Shelter Services on East 16th Street, the Erie Community of Caring on East 8th Street, the Upper Room, and someone else. And they all did like white sheets. I asked them all to do white sheets of what their needs were. Their needs are many. Some need basic stuff like washers and dryers that are capable of almost commercial grade to kill any bed bugs or pests or things like that. I had the opportunity to walk through. I see pet peeling all over the walls. I didn't go into the woman's shelter next door, but I know that shelter needs are many. I know that we've been blessed on some level with the weather, but I know people are still sleeping outside. Probably the biggest thing. And I asked Erie County Case, I spoke to JCAT. I reached out to St. Martin's Center, reached out to Erie County Case Management, who handles rapid rehousing. That's finding quality, affordable housing, helping people, many with dual diagnosis, addiction, or at the least mental, but homeless. There are people still sleeping on the streets. And I believe that $1 million to those 8 or 10 shelters, isn't a crazy ask. And I would ask that you would support that. I also, in that vein, had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Smith briefly. He's supposed to send me some availability data, he still can, to talk about another plan that the administration has to address some of the homeless in the overflow shelter. But we have yet to have that meeting. I believe $1 million out of the $2 million is a moderate ask. I would hope that you will support.
Mr. Horton. Can that be used, I don't know if you heard this, you were talking, the shelters, because there's people now on the street with
That's right.
the sleeping bags. Could they're asking for it.
They should be able to access that fund to
They could
Erie,
ask, okay,
Erie County Case Management, and a lot of the stuff, the upper room gives away blankets and sleeping bags, and there is a need. One of the most disheartening and heartbreaking things that there is to see someone that's mentally challenged be asked to leave a shelter in the middle of extreme temperatures. And I've witnessed that on a number of occasions. If you're so inclined some night, if you're coming from the Erie Otters game, if the police aren't there blocking it off, and you're just interested as the night goes on, if there's not nothing, you walk into that parking ramp, this kitty corner from where the Otters play. You might be surprised at what you find. Because what you'll probably see, one of those rainy cold nights is 15, 20 people in there who don't have affordable quality house. I won't give you the coming in like this humane society with all the battered animal stories. But when you go to a prep event we're at the event center, think about the kids that have their homes celebrate back off over there too.
So the ECCM has a plan on allocation and.
That's what they do.
Okay.
They ECCM was distributed almost $37 million in a year and a half or 2 years of pass-through funding and some ARP dollars. They paid for rental assistance. They paid to have things repaired in homes that that really would be uninhabitable. They paid utilities. They kept people in their homes 6, 7 months, 8 months out of WAP. And so they're the agency best poised to do that type of work. They do mental health and intellectual disabilities as well. They're the coordinator of all of the shelters. So if you call and say I'm homeless, it's got to go through ECCM. They'll tell you, this shelter has a bed, or this one doesn't have a bed. They'll tell you, they got caseworkers assigned to many of the people, most of their clients. But it's the premier agency to do that. I can't think of another agency or county affiliate better poised to do it. JCAC in the St. Martin Center does some on a smaller level. So the thing to be done, and I've spoken about that with the director there, she have to make sure that JCAC and St. Martin Center are included in any outreach or in-reach to those communities. And so there are some things in place already that we could tap into. It's beyond me how $2 million sit there for a year. And the home team and human services, Mr. Matthews, people need all the time. Certainly it's like, who you gonna believe, me or your lying eyes? If it weren't for the construction downtown, you see all the merchants complaining about the people. They had an ambassador program, and I'll share the information that I was able to obtain from those that put the stuff forward. They don't have restrooms available to them in Perry Square, and so yeah, that's my pitch.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to say that, the administration does share Mr. Horton's, a general concept as far as, moving money toward homeless programming. We do ourselves are looking at trying to use the, now vacant, work release building towards some sort of, temporary shelter. But there does have to be some conversion that takes place there. And we don't yet have any handle on a plan and funding need for that. What we would hope is perhaps that we could sit down with Mr. Horton, and that's why we contacted him, and maybe another member or two, and to talk about this funding idea that you have, and perhaps some others, to get into a little bit more specificity about how we might spend these funds. I agree that Erie County Care Management can deliver some of these services. In fact, they just did get $300,000 through MHID money to deliver some homeless services through their street response group. That is, if they get a call about somebody, let's say, that's on the streets and doesn't have a place to go, they help them find, it might be mental health services, housing services, whatever it might be. Or, you know, they had an issue at a shelter, that sort of thing. But we do believe for $1 million, or maybe in the end, it might be more than that, that there should be more of a planning piece involved. And so we would like to see that if we could.
Mr. Chair. I'm always open for dialogue. Aside from what I'm putting forward, I still put this forward, knowing that the administration is desiring to have those type of conversations. And it's really refreshing to see. I wish we would have had those type of conversations last year on some of the things, but the need is immediate now. And I don't think I don't see the wisdom in spending money on something temporary when we have shelters that have been servicing or filling that void for many of them, some of them for 50, 60 years. And they're not going anywhere temporarily. They're open 365 days a year. And so they need the help like yesterday. And also Erie County, in terms of Erie County case management, they were so efficient and they did such a fantastic job of doing it. They were the gold standard for the state. I believe we received millions of dollars to continue that program because we still had the need, and the other communities were not as efficient as getting the funds out. And so we were able to access other funds from other communities through that process. Erie County residents certainly benefited.
I want to echo that statement. Like, I think the immediate need is now, and I really appreciate that you're willing to look forward to, you know, future plans, whether they be temporary or permanent. But the organizations that he's referring to have established themselves as, you know, doing this well, and their plan is working. I don't want to punt something 6 months down the road because of conversation that we can have an instant impact now, especially in the wintertime. So, I mean, I support this completely, and I still hope that means that we can find other funds in the future and move forward with the plan that you spoke with Mr. Horton about. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I would echo those comments. I mean, the allocation of this $1 million doesn't preclude us from doing more. I feel pretty confident saying that $1 million isn't going to solve the problem of homelessness in Erie. So,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
Paul, how much, what is the balance in the ARPA funding?
I don't have that number with me right now. I can
If
get
I
that.
recall, though, there'd be a little under 5 million for
Yes.
the gap,
Correct.
right? And then 2 million for the homeless.
That had been part of that, yeah.
Now, the other, now, since the administration vetoed the use of ARPA funds for the,
Well, that was part of that.
well, it would have. Yeah, so the 2,000 homeless would have gone to fund the outside counsel. So, so now that the administration has vetoed that, all of that money should be in the fund. So right now, that fund should have at least unspent around 7 million.
6.5, give or take, yeah.
Okay.
Tom, is that unspent or unappropriated? Because the controller's report, I think it
Unspent,
was 12.
There's,
Five has been-
there's a difference there. I don't mean to interrupt.
Okay, I'm
I don't
sorry.
have those figures at the top of my head. But there's a-
Yeah, I'm taking from Kyle's figures. But, yeah, those have been appropriated, but as Paul has said, the gap money hasn't gone out yet.
Correct.
Most of it. And the homeless money has not either.
Correct.
So there is funding available in the ARPA fund for this project. And yeah.
Correct. Anybody got any more questions for me on that?
I think we'll have some more here in a few moments.
I had a, oh, sorry about to interrupt. I had a quick question on that. Councilman Horton, is the 1 million, is that a part of the previously determined Project Homeless funds, or is that on top of the 2 million?
It doesn't matter because that previous 2 million from appropriated last year has been swept back into it. And so the balance is the balance of what
Okay.
the discussion was.
Okay.
So there are funds there. So forget about that 2 million and just look at the total balance of the ARPA funds available.
Makes sense. Thank you.
And so, yeah, and to segue into the second one, because I asked Colin when I came in too, prior to Paul coming in, what's the bottom line on what's left on our ARPA funds? Because I didn't know what it was. We got, it was 2.5, then it was 4.6, then it was 2.7, then it was 3 point whatever. And so I knew that at least there was 1.5 left in there. And I'm asking that 1.5, at least 1.5 of that, be allocated to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission, who had an original allocation from this body of $10 million by a 7-0 vote. I don't see my colleague here, Ms. Showerman, but I think she's online. But it was a 7-0 vote. I won't read the resolution declaring racism a health emergency crisis here tonight, although I may on Tuesday. But it spoke to the disparity. I won't speak tonight here on what the American Rescue Plan funds were intended for, because I come here every week and say it. But I will speak to the fact that it went from $10 million to $3.5 million. So they $6.5 million that was originally allocated, they did not receive. And so that was originally proposed. And so I'm not saying that you took that we took $6.5 million from the DEIC and gave it to Penn State and Gannon. What I am saying is we gave Gannon $1.5 million that we directly took from a DEIC project. I am saying that we took $5 million of ARP money of the total. So out of $52.5 million, we took $6.5 million and gave it to higher ed. Kind of lines up with the $6.5 million one might say that was taken from the BIPOC community and businesses. Hell, I will say, American Rescue Plans were intended for those individuals, organizations, and entities that were most negatively impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. It was also intended for those populations who were historically disproportionately discriminated against. This county, under this county seal, said, yeah, we did that. And yet, it was redlining here too. And yet, they didn't get financing for home ownership here either. And yet, 97% of the homes here are owned by Caucasians. Black and brown community is 2.3% home ownership in Erie County, and we ought to do something about it. And we thought we were. And so have some decency. We all know, I will talk about some of the troubles that the DEIC had. They shot themselves in the foot, and this administration shot them too. We're starting a commission, starting from ground zero. Most businesses have a tough go of it. And there are some things they could have done better. I remember some of these other authorities and commissions. I remember the apple juice guy. I remember the market. I remember the inland port rail. I remember this body gave someone prior to us arriving here a $3 million unsecured loan. Nobody said squat. Nobody said squat. I wish there was $3.5 million enough in there, and this body had the political will to do the right thing and give it back to them. We all know without another appropriation, it's hard for them to really gain traction. And they shouldn't be held. I guess the excuse was, well, they didn't leverage it. They didn't leverage it. It doesn't mean that investment haven't taken place and investment isn't important. And so I'm asking, because I didn't have the appropriate amount or the correct amount. I didn't have the exact amount of ARP dollars that was left. So I probably would have asked for more. But I'm asking that this body restores on some level and props up the DEIC commission.
Let's just take a moment to voice support for that plan. I agree. I think it's the least we could do. I think it's probably one of the biggest tragedies that the largest investment ever from the federal government really failed to reach the hands of people that need it the most. So just should know that I voice support in that. Anybody else have any comments, questions? Let's move on to number 5, approving the intergovernmental transfer IGT agreement between the PA Department of Human Services, Office of Long-Term Living, and County of Erie. Mr. Donor, I think you would speak on that.
Certainly. This is something happens every year. County puts forth money and it's matched by state and federal funds. That money is returned to the county, and then Pleasant Ridge gains the excess funds from that, and it's a integral part of our operating budget. So, any questions?
You know I talked to you off at length about this process, and I feel like I've got a very good handle on it. But what exactly is the mechanism that determines what the dollar amount is? Is that a decision at the county level, or is that the state ask? Well, where does the actual number come from?
That's from the state. That's the state request. And we match that. And then they use those funds again for.
Okay.
Yeah, but that comes from the state Department of Human Services.
Yeah. I think that we have a lot of questions on that, right? That's twice a year, right? All right, so moving on to 6, possible sale of a parcel for the repository for unsold property at index number, I'm not gonna read that. Did we have Mr. Bible here? Speak on that at all? Or is this just,
He's not here.
okay, just move forward on that, that'll be part of the, okay. And then, unless there's any, objection, I'd like to move items 7 through 36 through as one piece of discussion. I had a great deal of concern at my first meeting had 340 pages of tax exonerations. I called Terry, I says, holy crap, is this an ordinary thing? Do we have somebody from the admin to talk about those particular? It's not really an admin request, right? That originates in the assessment office.
We're actually the last
Right,
group that approves that.
Right.
So in the case of number 27, I don't know what that is.
okay,
So that there was a reason somebody in Mill Creek Township asked for an exoneration of the tax. It may have been,
This is not one of the same mobile homes.
I don't know, I just picked 27 out of the
Oh,
year.
okay, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, Ron,
Okay,
I mean, I guess we could look at that, and there's a reason for why that happened. A lot of these mobile homes they're gone, they're not there
Yeah.
anymore.
I
So-
checked the vast majority of them, they almost all appear to be
Yeah.
mobile homes that were no longer
That they're no
existing.
longer in existence, so, you know, who are you gonna get the money from for the taxes on that thing? So get it back in the tax roll somehow, some way.
Why
And we
so
don't-
many?
Oh, well, end of the year, they, you know, when assessment goes through and does all their paperwork at the end of the year, they find these things.
Just seems this year it's
Well, there's a lot.
highly, I think.
So I'm looking through the packet of all the exonerations from the municipalities and the school boards, it was over the course of several months, and they appear to kind of all pile up here and us all at once.
You know, I guess if you don't mind me going back to number 6 again, the repository sale.
Oh, yeah.
And we talked about this back in the spring and then in the fall, and do we want to make any movement on that dollar amount? You guys decide, I guess. What you want to do with those.
Sure.
Yes.
In the past, I mean, it's been this 250 mark for as long as I can remember, even when I was on city council and, you know, that's a nickel, you know what I mean? There comes a time if maybe it's time to move forward and double it or something or other, just to make it cover at least the paperwork that the county has to go through to do these sales, you know, I don't know,
The title transfer, that's on the buyer, right?
And we got the determination from George Joseph, and I think, Tom, you took a look at it last year and, you know, up to you guys. I guess I'll bring it up again and maybe.
I mean,
Good discussion.
Are we exonerating these taxes or somebody already purchased these taxes? I mean, these properties and we're exonerating. I know we're last, but it's almost because Attorney Talarico, some of these situations. Like, not so much from the municipality, but from a private owner or something, or even a nonprofit or LLC. They come and they say, well, we forgot to, or we didn't pay, or we wasn't in this, and so now we want to exonerate them. And it's a situation where we don't exonerate them for everyone.
Yeah.
Can you help me out? Could you know what I'm
Yeah,
talking
first we have
about?
to distinguish between properties that are sold, that were not sold after judicial sale.
Mhm.
Okay, and those are those things where you see possible sale of the parcel. Okay, distinguish those from the exoneration of delinquent taxes, they're completely different things.
Okay.
So the exoneration of taxes, and I had asked Karen to contact Steve Letzeller, who's the head of the tax claim bureau, and would have prepared these exonerations. And she advised me, she did, and that basically all of these are pretty much lots that have been vacated and where trailers have been moved. And trailers move, they have a funny way of moving all the time, they do. But the idea is getting rid of, taking these properties off the tax rolls, because the municipalities are not collecting any taxes from them and haven't been for years. So by doing that, the municipalities free the property up to be sold,
So,
and that's what these exonerations.
yeah, I'm know what that part of it. I
You
just
know,
wanna make sure
As
it goes-
opposed to, for example, if there was, if a well-to-do entity out there was seeking an exoneration of back taxes for 5 years, then that would be an issue, because that would mean they get to go along without
That's the
paying taxes
scenario
while everybody
I
else does.
Yeah, that's the scenario I was reaching for, because we've actually had that happen
We
a
have,
couple of times.
and we did the right thing, I think, half the time.
I agree.
But, yeah, this is not, these exonerations are not involving people that are making money on these things or being forgiven for years of back taxes, which they have the dollar to pay for in the first place.
There's just simply no longer a building for a new owner to assume that tax value.
And I didn't put the lot back on the tax roll. It's back. It's great.
The gentleman that's buying his, he is a contract. I guess he's going to the garden.
I just a little curious.
Gentleman is buying what?
Fund number 6.
He's that number.
Six, that's parcel.
He will have these two.
Well, unless there's any individual ones that you all want to go on, I think the chairman has said he'd like to deal with all of them with one.
Yeah, we buzzed by number 6 pretty quickly, which is separate from those 7 through 36, but yes. Yeah, it's a good conversation to have later.
It's a matter of discretion and policy. I mean, if you raise it to 250 to 1,000, no one would buy the properties. Right, so the whole purpose would be defeated. So you can't go too high.
But you could double it.
I mean,
I
the
think a
people that are,
parcel of 130 by 165 anywhere in Erie County is a pretty nice piece of property.
sure, but they had that, everybody's had an opportunity to buy it at judicial sale. And then they've had a second opportunity to buy it at a judicial sale. And they passed it up twice. So now this is the third way around it. And so they're being sold for 250 to get rid of it.
So in the city of Erie, you have someone from California buying up half the Lower East Side at $250 a lot, California. And I agree with Jim.
They'll still buy it at 500.
All day long.
Yeah, I agree. We adjourn in.
This is the part where you say, Mr. Lipton wants to, if all of the ordinances and resolutions were passed.
There you go. Thank
The
you for saying
estimated
forward.
fund balance will be $51,393,832. And that's $30,721,604 above what we need for the 2 months that, doesn't by resolution we're supposed to have. And we should have, the end of December, unaudited financial statements out to everybody. Give us a few more days, probably the middle of next week or so. So we'll take a look at those things. Any questions, obviously call me up and I'll tell you what happened.
I do have a quick question. I noticed with our department, the election integrity grant, that money's not back into our account. Is that,
Bank account or?
at the end of the year, we had a balance of about a little under $1 million and it's not there now. It's less, but that's the money, probably, as you know, would go back to the state, not there. So would that be, it would be returned.
Let me take a look at that without having
Yeah,
the computer in front of me.
okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
as long as we have a moment of time. Paul, you received, I think indirectly, my opinion on the effect of the executive's veto on the source of the source of funds to fund the outside counsel
Yes.
authority. It's my opinion that the vetoed the source. But there's been no positive assertion that there is other money available or where it might be coming from.
Mhm.
So my belief is that you have to come before council with a supplemental appropriation. So that council could appropriate the money to the outside council. Whether it's from the general fund or anything, but the administration has to certify the availability.
Well, we sent down a copy last Friday of the budget in full after all of, and I think you got a copy of that,
I
maybe?
did.
Okay, of where we're sitting with everything. After the
Right.
budget was passed through the action sheets and then the vetoes.
Right, but it wasn't done. There's no mechanism to show how, there's no mechanism showing the council appropriated funds from another source to fund the outside
Well,
council.
that came from the fund balance and when you look at those things in total, it was very, there's not $1.6 million of an absolute that could be thrown into that pot of monies. There were 75 different entries that made that all up.
What I'm saying is council appropriated $1.5 million from ARPA to fund the outside council.
Mhm.
The executive vetoed that. So what he did is he knocked out the funding source,
Yes,
but there's no other funding source there's no record of any other funding source for that.
well, that came from the fund balance.
I know.
When all of
I could
those
see-
vetoes, there were
I could see-
30 some odd vetoes.
I could
that
see the
figured out
result, but I don't.
The
see
result.
I could see the result. We all know that it ended up in the general fund, and that's what's funding it. But there still is no
Excellent.
action where the administration has certified that there are funds in the general fund to pay for that. We don't have that.
And it has to come back before council to appropriate.
I did send out the appropriation ordinance also. With that, with the total of the general fund, along with the backup of the budget itself.
Okay, I didn't see that. Did you see
I
that?
didn't see it.
Is there an ordinance?
It's on the first page.
Yeah, because we should just get that on the agenda and get rid of it.
Okay, yeah, it's on the first page, and I sent it down last Friday.
On the first page of.
You missed our deadline.
No, we made the deadline. It was a general fund.
It was like noonish on
amended
Friday.
with an amended number.
Yeah.
A general fund.
Oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
but it's not an ordinance where, that includes a certificate from the administration certifying the availability of the funds.
No, it did not have.
Okay, so why don't you get one together? And, so we could at least have a record of it being funded that way. Because technically, it doesn't, just because there's money sitting in the general fund for that, it doesn't go anywhere until council approves it.
Well, that's why I sent down that page one of your email will show the new ordinance with the new general fund
You
balance.
mean that amended?
Yes,
I know.
correct.
I don't know why I'm repeating myself.
Okay.
over and over.
Well, I'm
There's
keep
no,
repeating myself.
there has to be, we know that the money's sitting in the general,
Mhm.
but there's no mechanism or procedure to get that money out of the general fund and to the outside council without the administration certifying the availability.
We'll deal with the certification. But as I sent down the general fund ordinance with the change made to it, I guess that didn't make its way onto this.
No, it
I
didn't.
think it said, if I
Because-
recall, that you were going to update and send something on Monday. Is that the same material?
And could you, when you send out those, that financial data, you probably already did, but if you didn't, Colin and, yeah, our CPAs need to have access to that.
They did.
I talked with them too.
Y'all better start sharing that stuff with us really fast when we get here.
Right, I can look at the emails, but I thought that it was accompanying with the message that it would be updated. We're working on it on the weekend with updated.
I was gonna talk to those guys about it, but you had the email.
Cause we
It had-
sitting here
yeah,
looking
It had
at
the
you like,
ordinance, it had all the backup to it.
I
got
can't
it.
find it.
I got it.
Personally.
But
could you resend that to Colin,
Included.
please?
Kenny was.
Kenny?
Yeah.
Any right there.
Yeah, he's right. I'm just saying, it'd be nice if the seven of us had the information that our people, for whatever reason, we don't.
That's secure.
I'm not blaming, I'm just asking for it in the future to, I ain't here to do that. I'm here to ask you, when it comes down, it gets where it's supposed to.
Motion to adjourn.
Yes.
who's who's our personnel?
Some young guy from the east side. Like to call- I'm still young. Like to call the personnel meeting to order. On our number one on our agenda, possible reappointment of Aaron Sismarski to Erie Regional Airport Authority. Term to expire December 31st, 2028. Brought to us by Mr. Scatella. Any questions or? Number two, possible reappointment of Matt Waldinger of the Erie County Planning Commission, term to expire December 31st, 2027. Again, by Mr. Scatella. Any questions or comments? Feel free to chime in. Possible reappointment, number 3, possible reappointment of Sean Johnson of the Erie County Convention Center Authority, term to expire December 31st, 2027. Brought forward by Mr. Horton.
And you see reappointment accompanied by this will be his first full term because this body approved him at the last quarter of this year to fill out the remainder of his predecessor's term.
Thank you. Number 4, possible appointment of Angela Ematangelo. How'd I do it, Terry?
And Tangelo.
Okay, awesome. To the Erie County Gaming Revenue Authority, term to expire December 31st, 2028. Brought forward by Mr. Copeland. 5, possible reappointment of Kelly Hess of the Erie County Gaming Revenue Authority, term to expire December 31st, 2028, and Mr. Drexel. Number 6, possible reappointment of Mary Antoinette Wells to the Erie County Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission, term to expire December 31st, 2027, by Mr. Bale. Number 7, possible reappointment of Jeannie Burns to the Office of Children and Youth Advisory Board, term to expire December 31st, 2027, by Ms. Showerman. Number 8, possible appointment of William Buzz Hammond to the Erie County Housing Authority, term to expire December 31st, 2026. That's brought forward by the county executive. Any comment from them in? And number 9, possible appointment of Dave DeFazio to the Erie County Redevelopment Authority, term to expire December 31st, 2028, also brought down by the county executive. Yes, sir.
Yeah, aside from the county executive, whose appointments are at large, are most of these people being appointed representative of the district that they live in. Yeah. I would ask that whenever that occurs, that you be upfront with us about it as soon as you know.
Mr. DeFazio is in Green Township.
He's a county executives. Yep, but the 7 of us, the charter is written so is that we should choose our appointments from the district. And that hasn't always happened, but we just like to know.
Any other comments? Motion.
Yeah, Johnny.
Thank you, everyone.
Great job.
Huh?
Good job, guys.
You gave me an easy.